Okay, so good afternoon, students. So this is the last experiment from our side, and so today we are going to do the reaction that is very commonly known as the click chemistry. So from the name, you can understand this reaction is very robust. So if you have the particular reagent and if you maintain the condition, the reaction will take place. And why we need this click chemistry approach? So actually, this is a very modern approach of organic chemistry. So you can synthesize very big and complicated molecule part by part, and then you can couple them together using this click chemistry approach. And other than that, you can synthesize many heterocyclic compounds which have various applications as a drugs or dye or in other chemical industries. You can synthesize using this very simple approach. So this is the condition. So what we need in the reaction starting material for this reaction. So we need a system that's called azide, that is N3. And then we need another system where we should have a triple bond, that's the unsaturation. And so in presence of copper sulfate pentahydrate, just a catalytic amount, and sodium ascorbate, and in the solvent like alcohol water mixture, mostly tertiary butanol water mixture. So this N3 can react with this unsaturation and it forms this heterocyclic compound. And so this is the click chemistry. Very simple one, but very robust one. So you can couple any part, any big functional group in both sides using this approach. And so the reagents we need for particularly this reaction is the benzyl azide. So that is the benzyl azide. And this is phenol propargyl. Obviously, this unsaturated triple bond is here. And then sodium ascorbate, copper sulfate pentahydrate, tertiary butanol. Be careful about that. The tertiary butanol and water is miscible. But if you use simple N-butanol and water, that is immiscible. And then ammonium hydroxide to finally make the condition basic. So, sorry. So procedure, what we'll do, the benzyl azide, this is not commercially available. So if you want to do the reaction, at least one day before, you have to prepare that benzyl azide. And so we have already prepared benzyl azide. We'll use that benzyl azide or phenyl azide, whatever it is. And so we will add 0.3 gram of phenyl azide to a solution of 0.3 gram of phenol propargyl. But be careful that this phenyl azide or benzyl azide, this is liquid, and this phenol propargyl is also liquid. So we have to use injection syringe to take 0.3 ml of phenyl azide and 0.3 ml of phenol propargyl. And we'll mix this in a 10 ml 1:1 tertiary butanol and water solution. So just using a glass rod, mix them quickly, and then with this add 0.2 ml copper 2 sulfate pentahydrate, 5 mole %. That is just a pinch of copper sulfate pentahydrate, and 50 milligram of sodium ascorbate. So that is 10 mole %, 50 milligram sodium ascorbate. And just using the glass rod, stir it carefully, dissolve all that copper sulfate and sodium ascorbate in the medium, and immediately you will see that the color change happening. But to complete the reaction, you need to heat it at 60 degrees centigrade for 120 minutes. Actually, that helps to reduce the volume of alcohol. We have used 1:1 tertiary butanol and water. So with heating, tertiary butanol will evaporate, and so the reaction mixture will be mostly in aqueous, in water, and then the compound form after click reaction will be precipitated out. And so after 2 minute gentle heating, it is 60 degrees centigrade, not very high temperature. So at 60 degrees centigrade, after 120 minutes heating, you take it out from the heater, cool the reaction mixture at room temperature, and then add water. So add more water, because there always should be some more tertiary butanol present. And so using water, you can dilute it, and so that the most of the product will precipitate out from the reaction mixture. And so you will get a yellow precipitate. So filter the precipitate and cold, wash it with cold water, and dry the precipitate with filter paper, or you can dry in oven for 60 degrees centigrade, and you can recrystallize it from ethanol. And so once we got that solid compound, we'll go for the spectroscopic analysis. So now I will request Dr. Sumon Desarkar to show you the reaction mechanism and how this click chemistry occur. Yes, Sumon.
Yeah, thank you, Devasida. So as Professor Haldar already mentioned, so it's click chemistry. So name came from something, click is like this, no? So something you can really easily do it, that's called click. So it's basically the reaction, you can really, it's difficult to get a failure in this reaction. It's so efficient. So that's why it's called click chemistry. And especially, when you are dealing with something where the failure will give you a big loss, as Professor Haldar already mentioned. So suppose 10, 20, after 10, 20 steps, you have two fragments, or you want to connect these two, right? And you really need a very efficient and sure shot reaction, because making a product after 20 steps is really a nightmare. It's not something very easy. So organic chemists are looking for really a reaction which will always work. And then this is the reaction they found, this click reaction with azide and alkyne in presence of copper. It's always works. It's, as I already mentioned, it's very difficult to get a failure here. That's why it's become very popular. So this reaction became very popular, and the thing is, although it haven't got the Nobel Prize yet, but it has so much application, especially with this people working on biochemistry. Although, of course, in synthetic organic chemistry, a lot of applications, but especially also in biochemistry, where suppose you want to attach a dye with the cell line or whatever, with a drug or something, where just to trace where the drug is going, or whatever, any medicine you put in a biological system, you have to tag it with a dye so that it's going whether in the targeted area, targeted cell, or something like this. So in those cases, no, this click reaction is really, really useful. So in last few years, was an enormous amount of application was found using this reaction. And in last week, you will probably remember, we did the reaction on cross coupling, which was awarded a Nobel Prize in 2010. So in my view, if some reaction has a potential to get Nobel Prize, this is the reaction. So any day, maybe this year itself, you never know. But if not this year, in near future, I think it has all the potential to get a Nobel Prize also in future. Okay, so the mechanistic details. So let me go to the board and tell you the details. So this is the last class on this, and then I'm happy to be back here with the blackboard, green board basically. If you look at the starting material, so what are the starting materials here? We have one azide and one alkyne, right? So alkyne is triple bond. Let us put R1 on alkyne, and you have one azide. Let's put R2 here in 3. And you are reacting these two in presence of copper. All right. and this is called the copper click chemistry. But if you just look at the starting material and the two starting material and the product, so the class of reaction is basically happening. It's nothing but a cycloaddition reaction, isn't it? So I just to make it clear, I'm just expanding this N3 part. If you expand this N3 part, it comes like this. Nitrogen, nitrogen. You have to be careful with the charges on the positive negative charge on nitrogen. This nitrogen, middle nitrogen has 4 bonds, so it must be plus, and this one is minus. Okay. And of course, you can have several resonance structure for this. We can push this thing here, it comes here. So R2. Then bond is minus here, plus here. So these are the two major resonance structure. Now the thing is, if you react with this azide and alkyne, okay, let us bring this azide close to the alkyne here to understand the reactivity. Plus here, minus here. The thing is, and color chalk. You push electron here, push electron here, push electron here. What are you getting? Yeah, you are making 2 carbon nitrogen bonds here. R1. So this bond becomes double bond, and here is one. This is the new bond which is formed. Nitrogen here, nitrogen here, nitrogen here. There is another new bond which is formed. Okay. There was a triple bond between 2 nitrogen, it becomes double bond, and R2 is here. This is the product. It's nothing but a 2 plus 3. 3 nitrogen, so it's 3. There is 2 carbons, 2. It's nothing but 3 plus 2 cycloaddition. It's nothing but is a 3 plus 2 cycloaddition reaction. Okay. So it's basically a pericyclic reaction. We have already learned in last semester pericyclic reaction. There are so many kinds of cycloaddition. Most popular is of course 4 plus 2, the Diels-Alder reaction. So this is nothing but a 3 plus 2 cycloaddition reaction. Because now we see this is because basically this is the azide thing is dipolar, right? So it's a plus minus different sides. So that's why it's also sometimes called 3 plus 2 dipolar cycloaddition reactions. And it's like this. Okay. So you get a 5-membered ring because 3 plus 2 is 5. Okay. So the thing is, if you mix this azide and the alkyne, the pericyclic reactions normally need either heating or light, as you know. Like giving heating is more easier. If you just mix azide and alkyne and heat it up, this reaction will occur. No problem. Right? No problem, and you will get this cycloaddition product. But synthetically, there is a problem. So what is the problem? First of all, of course, you need to heat it up. And these biological systems, as I said, some dyes or some drugs, or sometimes even with some cell line with some protein tethered, something, a peptide of the kind of these proteins, some chain, people tag some drug. These kind of things will not be will not survive if you heat it. So you really need something which is mild. Okay, so you need to do at best is if you can do it at room temperature. Yes, you need more milder condition. So then, actually, the milder condition can be achieved just by adding some copper. So copper will do the magic and keep it do the reaction make very efficient, and you can do at very ambient temperature. This is one aspect. And more important is another aspect that I haven't told you yet. I don't know whether you have noticed or not. Thing is, you see, I have drawn the azide this way and the alkyne this way. Okay? So the azide nitrogen with the nitrogen, which is containing the R2 group. Okay, so that is in this particular mechanism is close to this R1. Okay, and during this reaction, this is giving the triazole where R1 and R2 is next to each other, isn't it? Okay. Let me draw another possibility. You see, this is also very much possible, where I just oriented in other way around, where R2 and R1 is a bit far away. And this is the same mechanism, 3 plus 2 cycloaddition. And it's giving, this time also it's a triazole product, but it's not the same. It's basically a regioisomer. Here R1 and R2 are close to each other, but here R1 and R2 is far away from each other. So that's the thing. And then what happens in reality, if you heat this azide and this alkyne together, you don't have any control whether the azide will come in this approach and react to give this one, or it will just turn around and go there and then react and give the other product. And in reality, what will happen if you just mix and heat, you will get both the products. Okay. And in organic chemistry, we really hate this product mixture. In organic chemistry, is one of the most difficult or boring, whatever you say, job is to separate things, make it pure. I don't know whether some of you have done in column or so. Sometimes it's really boring and it's time consuming. Okay, and also sometimes it's very expensive, especially for the industry. Also, it's very, very expensive to spend a lot of time and solvents. So it's really, really important that you design or develop a reaction which will give you a single product, ideally, and you don't really need to separate this out. And because these two are both triazoles, although these are regioisomers, not same, but the separation will be very, very difficult. Yeah. So once you get this product mixture, it's a nightmare to separate this out. And as I said, so with 20 steps, after 20 steps, you will get it's a horrible mixture of two regioisomers. It's pretty bad situation. So that's the major reason also to do something, whether you can stop the formation of these two regioisomers and get only one of these two products. Okay, and you can exclude one. These are the two major reasons. And of course, another thing is the efficiency. So if you just heat it up, if you get probably you will get 40, 60, whatever percentage. But with copper, but as I said, you need something which is very, very efficient. Yeah, because it's really challenging to do in those with these very complex and bioactive molecules to do reaction. If it's not efficient reaction, you will not get the success. So these are the three reactions to make it milder, to get only a single product, and of course to improve the efficiency. That's why people are looking to develop the simple cycloaddition reaction, but using some magic thing, so that it becomes so efficient, can be done at mild condition and gives only one product. And Professor Barry Sharpless, who actually noticed that the simple addition of copper will do the magic, and you can really solve these three problems, and you can make this reaction milder, and only one regioisomer will form, and the efficiency really becomes very, very high. So I will now show you the role of copper here, the mechanism with copper, and I will also explain you the origin of regioselectivity. Already before going there, let me tell you which regioisomer actually forms using copper. It's basically this one. With copper, this one. If you, without copper, if you heat, both will form, but with copper, only this one will form. This one will not form. Okay, let's see why. Copper is the mechanism is little bit different. Barry Saplis has a lot of contribution. He already got received Nobel Prize once, probably some of you know, with his contribution in asymmetric synthesis, asymmetric epoxidation and dihydroxylation. Or he will get it for the second time. All right. So what's the mechanism? Actually, although it was developed quite some time ago, this Flick reaction by Barry Saplis group, but initially the mechanism was not really clear. Only in 2013 there was a science paper published. They really explained the role of copper in these reactions. And they said it's not only a single molecule of copper, because two molecules of coppers are involved simultaneously in this mechanism. I will make it a bit simplified. I will share with you the link maybe or the paper. If some of you are really interested, you can go through it, through that science paper. I will make it more simplified version so that it will be easy to understand to everyone. Let us start. Start with the alkaline. So what happens when this is the copper catalyst. The metal catalysis, so I have to really draw a round shaped circle, catalytic cycle. You have R1 alkyne, yeah? The H here. And we have some base there. Ammonium hydroxide, any click reactions are normally performed using a mild base. So once you have the base, so what will happen? This copper will first coordinate with the triple bond. Triple bond is a pi system, right? It's electron-rich pi system. It's a metal. So metal coordination will happen. And then with the help of the base, the proton will get deprotonated there. And then the metal will sit here on the copper acetanilide. The copper acetanilide probably you are learning from your +2 level. With alkyne and copper is from copper acetanilide. Okay? Copper sits there. Here's the first step. Then second step, what happens? A second molecule of copper comes. Then this guy again coordinates with the triple bond. It's a dotted thing. Copper. Second copper. Then once these two metals comes close to each other, they start talking to each other. There is kind of a metal cluster kind of thing forms. Although they publish a science paper, it's still not, it's still debatable, this thing. So it's just a proposed mechanism. Okay, now comes the azide. Now comes the azide. This R2, N3. And then what happens? It's copper here, dotted copper, second copper. draw it a little bit bigger so that you can see it properly. R1. Yeah. Here comes the nitrogen, nitrogen, nitrogen. R1. Here is the R2. This is plus, this is minus. With the minus, let's coordinate with like this. So azide comes and coordinate with the second copper. And once this is done, then basically this carbon nitrogen bond formation starts like this. This, it goes this. Instead of making carbon nitrogen bond second one, it first make a carbon copper bond like this. Okay. Now think about it. This is very crucial. So as I said, the first thing is one copper sits on this terminal of the alkyne, which is away from R2, R1, sorry, away from R1, right? Initially, copper sits away from R1. Okay? Then second copper comes, and now this first copper is holding holding the second copper. Okay, and then the azide comes, and then second copper is holding the azide, this nitrogen, which is close to R2. Okay, like this. Now the bond formation started. So that means what? So it's kind of a chain. First copper away from R1, second, so that, and make sure it is holding this second copper, and second copper holding the nitrogen which is attached with R2 group. Okay. So all this holding thing, make sure that it forms the orientation of the azide becomes like this, where this R1 and R2 it are away from each other. Okay, same like here. Same like here, where R1 and R2 away from each other, but there is no copper. It just happened randomly. The two options, there is one option that R1 and R2 away from each other, and one I have erased already, but you just turn it around where R1 and R2 is close to each other. But once with the copper, there is no possibility that this R2 comes this side. Okay, so because this is away from each other, this is holding this one, this is holding this one, and this makes sure that R1 and R2 away from each other, and it gives, once you form this, you have two more steps. I will go this side. The board is a bit small for this big mechanism. I'll erase this and go from this side. What will happen? So this is carbon-carbon double bond. R1 is here. This nitrogen, this is the new bond which is formed. So made it like this. Nitrogen. It's a double bond nitrogen, a single bond nitrogen, but R2 is there. There is this. This is second copper, and first copper was already there. Yeah, actually, yeah, this comes like this, and then basically with copper also it form a bond. It form a bond first with copper like this. Okay, and then there is a reductive elimination, so it's a carbon nitrogen bond forms, and you get the product, triazole product. Nitrogen, double bond, and this is R2. So this is the product. Okay, these are the two bonds, carbon nitrogen bond forms. So ultimately, it's nothing but a 3+2 cycloaddition product. It's a triazole product, but because of all these things, it made sure that R1 and R2 becomes away from each other, and you get particularly only exclusively this regioisomer. The other regioisomer where R1 and R2 next to each other will not be formed. Okay. This is the thing. So actually, there is one more step which I skipped. So after this, there is, okay, let me draw it. So initially, the first copper is there, and then what happens? One proton comes, and then the proton sits on metal, and then this metal gets released. So this basically, this board is small for this big mechanism. This is just a deprotonation here. It's called proto-demetallation. So this metal catalyst goes there, initial stage, because it's a catalyst, right? We have to go regenerate the metal catalyst. This copper goes there, regenerate the metal catalyst, and proton sits here, which will give our required triazole product. Okay. Just replace this copper with proton. So it will just from here, it will become H, and then you'll get the product. I'm not drawing the product anymore. I'm sure that you understood that. You regenerate this thing. So it's a little bit complex. That's why it's a science paper, of course. You know, getting science or nature paper is not easy. And although mechanistically it's a bit complex, but when you perform the reactions, it's that much easy. Okay, so just dump everything and mix it and run it. In most of the cases, it works at room temperature. Sometimes maybe 40-50 degree heating is required to make it 100%, the 100 conversion, make 100% conversion or something like this. But it's so easy and so efficient. Okay, so this is the thing. I will share with you a link where mechanism is discussed in more details with language. Please go through it if you're interested. The questions.
So, is there the terminal nitrogen which has negative charge, that resonance structure, that can also participate in like the azide? So in that case, the R2 will be not in the terminal position. Like here, the this reaction, the azide participating is one resonance structure where the nitrogen, the negative charge on the nitrogen is just side by the R2. So the another resonance structure where the nitrogen has the terminal nitrogen has the negative charge, that can also participate, and then that can coordinate with this copper, and then in that case the R2 will be just side by R1.
Yeah, a very good question actually. The thing is, the other resonance structure is not really reactive because it's really rigid, you know. The rigidity here much more here because it's a two both side double bonds. So you mean this one? 2 plus here minus here, right? And for this cycloaddition reaction, now some kind of flexibility is required. So that's why where this resonance structure so where it becomes one carbon nitrogen single bond, no? So this becomes more flexible, and then this orbital interactions becomes much more easier. Okay, here. This is really, you know, it's like a rod. It's a rigid thing, and then when you are reacting, no, the orbital overlaps are not perfect here. It's very difficult to have. But once you have this sp3 hybridized here both sides it's sp2, both sides sp2, and here it becomes one terminal becomes sp3. Then it becomes more flexible, and the overlap is much easier there, orbital overlap. Okay, for this cycloaddition reaction. So that's the reason. But with the charge, your argument is completely valid. If you please read the science paper, it's all the details are discussed there.
Sir.
Yeah.
So if the use of like exact mechanism of copper was not known, then how did they guess that copper would be useful?
So they did a lot of control experiments and also these energy calculations. So whenever you do know in the organic chemistry any prediction of mechanism, you don't have a direct proof because you can't really see the molecules, right? So always we have indirect proof. Suppose any intermediate we are proposing. So if somehow in other way, if you can prepare that intermediate and then do the reaction and say, yeah, and we reach the product up to the product, then say, yeah, of course, this reaction probably going via this intermediate, then only we reach the, this is kind of control experiments. Okay? Or suppose we are proposing some radical mechanism, and then you add some radical quencher. There are some radical quenchers, are known quencher like TEMPO or so. You add that, and then there is no product formation. Then you say, yeah, it's a radical mechanism, and we added the radical quencher, and then that's why the reaction did not proceed like this. And of course, there is now another tool is to do computationally different intermediate, whatever I have drawn. The people will do the computational study with this, and then find which is the high energy pathway, which is the low energy pathway, and which one is more stable intermediate, which one is low, comparatively low energy intermediate.
Yes. So the initial step is the trial and error method, and so they have figured out that copper and ascorbic acid is working better than copper and acetic acid or sulfuric acid or whatever it is. So this is by trial and error method they have came out that this is the best condition to do this reaction with very good yield. But always it's difficult to draw the mechanism in hard and fast with all the intermediates, because all intermediates are not available in reality. So there are many predictions in between, but the reaction is going on, it's occur. Any more questions?
Sir, I wanted to ask that, sir, why not the other regio structure of that azide where the R2 is closer to the, so that can also bind with copper, right? As well.
Yeah, that was the first question also. I said, no, this sp3 thing, when both the terminals are sp2 nitrogens, it's more rigid, and then it's don't really participate. You see here, some flexibility is required in this state. Yeah, so it's really like a rod, and then this cycloaddition thing will not happen. Okay? So some kind of flexibility is required here. Okay? So that's why this lower resonance structure, where one of the terminal is sp3 nitrogen, so that's the reactive resonance structure. And now you comes here with that resonance structure. One side nitrogen is negative. Okay, with that nitrogen with containing R2 is negative. Okay? And the other terminal is neutral, this nitrogen. Okay? So that's
so
why
it will remain ineffective for the entire reaction, or we will get some product that would be very minor, or it won't ever coordinate with copper. So
that's the background reaction. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, without involving copper, that's possible. But you know, as I said, those are high energy pathways without involving copper. So if copper is involved, then definitely its activation energy is low. Okay, so the transition state is low. And now any reaction has two. If you have two options, if you provide enough energy, if you heat it up, then both will happen. Okay? But if you don't have available energy, if you at room temperature, low temperature, then of course the molecule will prefer to go to low energy pathways. Okay? And this is the low energy pathway where nitrogen having negative charge and having R2 here, so that ultimately comes close to this side, this terminal, away from R1. Okay.
Okay, Shumon, so let's play the video.
Yeah.
Student. So today we are doing this experiment, the click chemistry. That is one of the very modern and important reaction to synthesize many biologically and catalytically active compounds. And so from the name click chemistry, you understand that this is a reaction between azide and a triple bond. That is the carbon-carbon triple bond, and we will form a heterocyclic compound, and that contains 3 nitrogen units. So for this reaction, the reagents we need are benzyl azide. So benzyl azide that we have to synthesize in the lab. So we have already synthesized benzyl azide last night for this purpose. And then we need this phenol propargyl. So that is the carbon-carbon triple bond, and sodium ascorbate, copper sulfate, pentahydrate, and tertiary butanol ammonium hydroxide. So what we will do, first we will add 0.3 gram of phenyl azide, that means the benzyl azide, to a solution of 0.3 gram of phenol propargyl in 10 ml butanol and water 1:1 ratio. That means 5 ml butanol and 5 ml water. So we will take 5 ml butanol and 5 ml water in a beaker, and then we will add 0.3 gram, that means approximately 0.3 ml of phenyl propargyl in that solution. So we have taken the butanol and water. Now we are adding 5 ml butanol to 5 ml water. That is the tertiary butyl alcohol. And to this solution, we will add 0.3 gram of phenol propargyl. So now we are adding 0.3 ml phenol propargyl using this syringe. Phenol propargyl, so it's a liquid. And to this mixture, now we will add our synthesized benzyl azide, 0.3 gram. So benzyl azide, this is also a liquid. So we'll add 0.3 gram using this syringe. This one is okay, so we have added this phenol benzyl azide to this mixture, 0.3 gram, and now we are stirring this solution, And so you can see both the liquids in tertiary butanol water mixture, they mixed properly. And now we will add copper sulfate pentahydrate and sodium ascorbate. So we are now adding copper sulfate pentahydrate and sodium ascorbate, 50 milligrams sodium ascorbate. So we'll start this for a few minutes and then we'll heat it at 60 degrees centigrade for 2 hours. So you can see already the yellow precipitates are coming out. So that is due to formation of azide. And the reaction between azide and the phenol propargyl, so the click chemistry is taking place. So to complete the reaction, now we'll heat it at 60 degrees centigrade for 2 hours. And we will occasionally stir it. So after 120 minutes heating at 60 degrees centigrade, now you can see that we have brown color or light yellow color precipitate. And now we are diluting the reaction mixture with water. And then we will add ammonium hydroxide solution, 5 ml ammonium hydroxide solution to this reaction mixture. So first we are diluting with water. And now we are adding ammonium hydroxide solution, 5 ml, to this reaction mixture. So we have this precipitate yellow color, yellow solid, and now we'll filter this yellow solid and wash with cold water. So now we are filtering the yellow precipitate. Here you can see we have very nice yellow precipitate. We have set the acidulator, the Pugner funnel with filter paper, and now we are filtering the precipitate. So nice yellow color precipitate of quick reactions we obtain. And we are washing the precipitate with cold water. So we can recrystallize this precipitate from methanol, and we will study the compound with various spectroscopic technique like FTIR, UV visible, and NMR spectroscopy.
Yes, if you have any question.
Sir, it forms only like a heterocycle of 3 nitrogen atoms, right? So isn't it a very specific reaction rather than being general?
Yes, yeah, it's triazole is forming. As I said, so basically it's the 1,3 dipolar cycle, the 2+3 dipolar 2+ is a cycloaddition reaction. So you can say it's 1,3 dipolar also because 2 nitrogens are polarized. Yeah, it's a cycloaddition reaction.
The important of this reaction is it is not the formation of the heterocyclic compound. You can put any functional group on the side chain and that will not disturb this compound. So you can combine any big biological molecule using these reactions. So that is the beauty of this reaction. The reaction is very specific with this azide and triple bond, and no other functional group will be disturbed. So that's why people are using this reaction so crazily to make big molecules. That's the importance as the drugs or dye or industrial purpose, pharmaceutical and other purpose.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Shiv Kumar asked what the role of sodium ascorbate and ammonium hydroxide. The thing is, sodium ascorbate has a dual role. So, like the urea, you remember in the last case. So it acts as a ligand. In the whole mechanism, I have shown there in the board that copper in triple within a third bracket, right? So that means the ligands are associated. I did not show that. It's not only bare copper cannot stay in the solution, right? It must be associated with some ligands. So ascorbate acts as ligand. It's the first role. The second role is we started with copper 2, and I did not comment on the redox state of copper because I wanted to keep it simple because it's already a bit complex. So the thing is, copper 1, people say it's still debatable, of course, but people say mostly it's copper 1 which is responsible for acidic reactions, and we are starting with copper 2. We need to go down one oxidation state, and so that means we need some reductant, and ascorbate is also acts as a reductant here, which reduce copper 2 to copper 1 and make the active catalyst, and second role is as a ligand. Okay. And for ammonium hydroxide, which is a very mild base, as you know, if you want, once you put ammonium hydroxide in solution, so it becomes a little bit basic, and so that's why. And for the formation of this copper acetanilide, we need some base. The first step where this alkyne sits there. In the alkyne, the terminal CH, there are copper sits there to form the acetanilide. Need some mild base. So that's the role of ammonium hydroxide.
So, but we added ammonium hydroxide later in the reaction after heating. Shouldn't we add in the first initial steps itself when we are adding the copper catalyst?
Is it we are adding at the end?
Yes, sir.
Did not check it. Ammonium hydroxide, when we are adding, Debasisna?
At the end. Oh, that is just
during the workup?
And no, just before workup to remove the copper, because the copper can form a complex with this triazole. And to remove the copper, we are adding ammonium hydroxide that makes a cupramine sulfate, and that's soluble in water, and we are.
So that means during the acetanilide, it's good enough without a base, huh? Or
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
maybe the ascorbate is acting as ascorbate, right?
Yeah.
CO2 minus is there.
Yes.
That is acting as a very milder base. So people sometimes use triethylamine also to make the acetanilide. So because within click chemistry also there are a lot of modification happened in terms of base, in terms of catalyst. But major thing is the azide, alkyne, and copper. These three are fixed. Okay. So then people tried some ligands, some base. Okay. So sometimes which is the base and ligand which having the same one ligand which can do all the jobs as a ligand, as a reductant, and also very, very mild base. So sodium ascorbate. Ascorbate, there is a CO2H is there, and sodium ascorbate means is a sodium salt. Okay, it's like sodium acetate, so which can also act as a very mild base which takes out the proton here. Okay, so that's the top. Then sodium hydroxide here. So as Professor Halder said, at the end, which makes a water soluble copper, makes a water soluble copper salt, and it's the OH minus coordinate with copper, and then so that during washing with water, it's remove all the copper catalysts. Yes. Okay.
And say why we are adding tertiary butyl hydroxide? We are later evaporating it by heating. So is it because of the solubility?
Even tertiary butanol.
Yes.
Yeah, only water. Only water. Then this alkyne especially will not be soluble. Alkyne is completely hydrocarbon, right? And in this particular case, only one oxygen is there because we are using this propargyl thing, propargyl phenol, one oxygen. So with that big part of hydrocarbon, it will not be soluble in water. You need something which will make solubilize. So that's why this is the trick. You mix something, some organic thing which will be soluble in water. There, the solution, the mixture of that water and tertiary butanol is good enough to solubilize other organic thing also. Yeah. So that's the mixture is the perfect. Okay, so it's not very ionic and not very covalent. It's in between. Okay, so it makes a certain balance because this copper thing is a metal, and then this organic thing is, of course, is organic and hydrocarbon. So these are two extreme ends. You need to solubilize the metal, also solubilize the organic thing. So that's why these solvent mixtures are used.
So any more question, students? Okay, so if not, I am showing that sharing my screen. So we have already synthesized our compound. We have washed our compound with cold water, and we have dried the compound, yellow material. And now we'll characterize by UV visible spectra and NMR spectra. So this is the UV visual spectra of the compound we got. So from here, which one is the peak for what. So you have to write that. And this is the NMR spectra of the compound. So it's mostly the aromatic peak with a little bit of aliphatic peak. And so you can characterize the spectra and write your report and send it to us. So that's it for the reaction. So we have completed the 8 experiments for this lab courses. And now
so one point is the
yes.
NMR was taken in DMSO D6.
Yes. NMR was taken in DMSO
D6. Okay, so please note that. Okay.
So
previous all NMRs were done in
CDCL. Yeah. This NMR
D6. So in aliphatic region, there are a couple of peaks which came from the solvent. So this clue I am giving to you.
Yes. Thank you.
So
yeah.
While assigning, be careful.
So for next 3 classes, next 3 weeks, it is your time to prepare your project. So this is a literature survey project. So you have to choose any project, and you have to submit 3 slides maximum your project presentation. So you can make it in PowerPoint presentation, but if you feel you need to write something more, you can make it in Word file also, but finally send us the PDF file, not the PowerPoint or not the Word file. Send us the PDF file, maximum 3 pages, 3 slides. And for next 3 weeks, it will continue. And then we'll let you know when your end semester examination will take place. So at the beginning, we have declared that for 9 experiments, there are 8 marks each, so 72 marks, and then 10 marks for the project, and 10 marks for a final viva voce or final lab quiz. So we'll conduct that when your end semester examination will start, lab examination. And then 8 marks is the internal assessment. So please prepare your project carefully and submit to that Google Gmail ID, and submit to that Gmail ID within next 3 classes. So for next 3 classes, there will be no regular class. But if you have any question, you can mail us, send us mail, and we will try to resolve the issue.
So the deadline is 9th, right? 9th of April.
Yes.
9th of April. So today is 19th, so next is 26th, then 2nd and 9th. So we have to send it by 9th of April.
Yes. So please submit your project by 9th of April. And in between, if you have any question, you can send us mail. So we will resolve the issue. We will try our best.
Yeah.
Okay. So any queries?
Yeah. Should we ask?
Oh, no. So as the condition is going on, the corona condition, so I don't think you will be able to come back in summer in campus. Government will not allow. At least the situation going worse again. So, and we have already taken the classes. So if you come back in the campus, one day we will show you one experiment, only one experiment, but not the entire class at all.
Yeah, but also, I mean, this grading and everything will be completed.
Yeah. Everything will be done, and that one day show will not depend on the grading. Nothing.
Yes. That's just voluntary for interested people.
Yeah. So if you are interested, you can perform one small experiment quickly. Yeah. Because in that case also we have to take care of social distancing in the lab.
All right then.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, so thank you very much, and see you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.